Hi, welcome to A Gay and a NonGay.
Woo!
Yeah, I'm Dan Hudson. I'm non-gay. He's James Barr. He's gay.
I'm gay.
Yeah, and Elf Lyons is in the house.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Oh, I'm so happy to see you. I did my professional voice then and immediately segued back to normal. I apologise.
I love it.
I'm like, hello.
It's like when you do a voice note and you forget who you're voice noting. So it's like, are you voice noting a work colleague, or are you voice noting someone you fancy, or is it a family member?
You
and
voice
you go,
note people you fancy?
yeah, because
No, what?
what?
That's crazy.
No, because it's like different. Because when I'm with my family, it's like, hi, can someone please make sure the hot water's on, because I really want to have a bath when we get in. So there's that voice.
Yeah.
And if I'm voice noting someone I fancy, it'll be like, hey, so sorry for the late reply.
That's how you voice note me.
Yeah, I've just been working at the moment. It's really interesting, that book you sent over, because it made me, I'm not sure if you listen or read Alain de Botton, but he talks about this lecture on romanticism. Anyway, sorry, I've got to go. I've got to teach, but maybe chat later. While when it's like work, it's like, hi, so yeah, I'm on the way to do the show. Can I just double check that the technical ride is, it's very different vibes.
Yeah, there were very different vibes there. The second one was very alluring. And who is Alain Botton?
Alain de Botton is...
Alain de Botton.
He's a philosopher, but he's I think he's brilliant because he makes philosophy very accessible. And I've met a few people who can be a bit snide about him, or like other, it's like anyone who writes and makes something accessible to people. It's like when you hear some chefs or foodies, they're like, oh, they're not a real chef.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what? They cook. He's not a real comedian. That Michael is they're not a real, they've sold out, they do this and this and this. You're like, no, but they are.
They're literally being paid to be a comedian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. It's anytime you can make it harder for everyone to be involved, or like if someone likes a band, they go, well, they're not making real music.
Actually, that's very much Dan's vibe.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it
No,
is.
it's not.
Oh, they're not a real band.
When have I ever said that?
They don't make real music.
When have I ever said that?
You haven't, but it is your vibe, isn't it?
I did pull a face when I've just been in New York and loads of people went to see Charlie XCX.
Right.
And I didn't realise that she was like by herself playing to a backing track. And I did pull a face when I heard that.
No, to a backing track, no, not on.
Right.
I just realised you've got a cow on your t-shirt.
Yeah.
Fun.
James has got a thing about cows.
Yeah.
Have I?
Yeah. He's obsessed with when he said, do you want some milk? And it's like cow's milk. He wants you to know that
It's a cow.
it's a cow.
Well, I
yeah.
don't like the systematic.
He doesn't like.
That's the one vegan battle I've chosen.
Yeah, but
I
he's
don't
not
like
a vegan and he
The
eats
abuse
meat.
of cows.
Yeah.
He'll eat a steak.
Yeah, but at least they're dead then, so they're not sad. They haven't had
Right.
their children ripped
Yeah,
away
but
from
the way they were killed was pretty horrific.
Yeah, but I mean, do they
Do they remember this
it?
is my very strong view, and people think it's I think every child at some point in your primary school education should all be on a school trip, be made to go to an abattoir.
Yeah.
I genuinely think we need to have a much better, clearer, more ethical understanding of where you get your food from.
I think that's a great idea.
And people go, that's horrific. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like back in my grandparents and my great grandparents, because it was all they were predominantly farmers and agriculture. If you wanted a chicken for dinner, you killed the chicken. Everyone knew where your food came from.
It's horrible though, isn't it? And we definitely don't know. We've definitely lost touch with that.
Yeah.
Speaking of animals, this is such a great segue, by the way.
Yeah.
Welcome to our
Oh
podcast.
yeah.
Your show, Horses, is the first ever comedy show performed entirely by a horse.
It is indeed.
And it's touring right now across the UK.
is.
You just got back from a hugely successful award-winning tour in Australia. Congratulations.
Thanks, babe.
So is it challenging being a horse?
It's so challenging.
I feel like, yeah.
I mainly because of the physical stuff on my body, because I pretend to be a horse.
Yeah.
So I'm predominantly
No, you are
leaning
a
over.
horse.
I am a horse. I am horse.
So you're on like all fours.
No, I'm tilted over. I can't be on all fours for the whole thing. But I wish I could, but my arms aren't long enough and my legs are too long. So there's a real issue, discrepancy with the arm to leg length. I have to warm up for such a long time.
Do you?
I have to warm up for such a long time.
I didn't know that. I mean, I've seen you be a horse, but I didn't really think about the sort of mental arithmetic that you've got to go through and the warm-ups that you have to go through to be a horse.
Well, this is the thing, because I get described as being very physical, and then some people critique and say Elf isn't a very good mime. I describe my mime as spaghetti mime. People who aren't trained in mime and who don't know much about dance and stuff, or, you know, just normal human beings will watch my show and go, oh my God, yeah, I got it. Yeah, because I tell the story.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people who have, you know, trained for 3 years, like
As actual horses.
as actual mimes and real animals, have gone, yeah, your fixed point and the conception of the hand shape, like your movements there, the corporeal wasn't quite exact. And I'm a bit like, oh, fuck.
So it sounds a bit like Strictly Come Dancing, the way they're thinking about it. It's very technical.
It's super technical.
But you're a comedian and clown.
Yeah.
So that's where this show comes from.
Yeah.
It's like a mix of both of those things.
I basically just be able to do whatever you bloody want on stage. If it conveys, it conveys. If the audience know what you're doing, if the audience can feel it and I feel it and I can see it, that's sort of part and parcel of the point. I just think I'm a horse.
What do you think it takes
And that's sort of the point. It's a funny comedy show watching a 33-year-old wobbly woman with sciatica and a spinal injury and a lumpy spine, covered in cellulite, pretending to be a horse. Just doing loads of different horses, just having a really good time and making the audience laugh.
But there's a lot of other stuff going on in the show. It's deeper than just let's play. I think there's like there's intersection with feminism.
There's loads of stuff going on. It's also it's that funny thing. I think we talked about it in Australia, because last year's show Raven, or the show from 2022, was all about sexual trauma. If as written very. If we were just being very blunt without any nuance or any sensitivity for it. It was all about things that I was frightened of. And there was an underlying theme of overcoming a childhood sexual violence, but in a very cathartic way without ever saying the words, and taking full ownership and having real fun in taking revenge and being angry and like the enjoyment of female anger. And that was a really fun show, an intense show. And then what was interesting was then bringing horses to Australia. What I found really hard was that everyone, because back in the UK, people, my audience base, are used to me bringing a very different style of show every year. So there's a thicker body of work. But in Australia, they were predominantly like, we know you from Raven, and we loved the angry rage. We really needed that. And they kind of wanted Raven 2.0. And then you come back with, I think, just a powerful show, but a different genre of show about play, which I also think is an important thing. But it wasn't to do with trauma. And I think a lot of people then thus valued it as a less important show, because play is still deemed as being very frivolous and not really mattering.
And also there are loads of straight comedians, clowns, or people that do shows that are not bringing trauma, and they're not expected to bring trauma. Yeah. So it kind of feels a bit misogynistic almost, I would say.
Oh yeah, it totally is.
To demand trauma from a female performer.
I think if you're not deemed factory settings, which in this case is like, I'd argue still white, male, straight.
Dan.
No offence, Dan. I love your people. But there is still this obligation to explain yourself to the audience.
They expect you to lean into a stereotype or a trope.
People want to feel safe immediately because we're all animals. So you have to go, oh, by the way, I'm gay. And they're like, oh, they know they're gay.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm black. Oh, they know they're black. Oh, she's trans. Oh, she knows she's trans. She realizes. Okay, good, because I didn't know she was going to say, like, oh, we're going to have to shout it out, like, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah.
Does she know she looks like a boy? She knows she looks like a boy.
It's like knowing what people think you're going to do so that everyone feels safe.
Yeah.
Which is so annoying.
Why do you think people don't want to play and mess about anymore?
I think everyone's really embarrassed about being cringe. Everyone's embarrassed about being filmed all the time. And we don't have any time, because the moment you do anything, you feel guilty that you're not working.
I have intense freelancers guilt.
Yeah.
Like I can't not work between 9 to 7 probably.
Yeah. My ex loved playing video games.
Yeah.
And would sometimes just spend a couple of days just playing. And I would obviously go, well, that's really lovely, because it's him communicating with other boys and they're having like a boy time, like they're all men in their 30s and 40s. But another part where we go, I can't believe it, you're playing board game. You're playing a video game. What? But then that's a lot of... That's the male equivalent of brunch, really, isn't it?
Right, is it? Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know. I thought my female friends, and I mean, this is very gendered, we always argue that men are more depressed than women because they don't have brunch. Yeah. They don't have what we have of like the washer meeting by the washing to talk and get
the
everything
washing,
out. You know, like in the
laundry.
old-fashioned community, the women would meet by the river and wash their clothes
Right,
and be
yeah,
like,
yeah,
did
yeah,
you
yeah.
hear John was
Yeah,
fiddling
yeah.
with Sydney by the poppy field last night? Did she? Oh, I did hear.
Yeah. I am more drawn to board games and whatnot these days.
Because it's social.
Well, because otherwise, like, the alternative is like, going for a drink or whatever, and people are just in my business.
I always, if I want to get out of a conversation, I subtly give the impression that I think the earth is flat.
Right.
I have started to think that it might be.
You accidentally did, didn't you, when you were in Australia? Bless you.
I honestly forgot that it was... It's quite... On Google Maps, it is flat.
Yeah, because your computer's not...
Right.
It's flat.
Yeah. But that if you don't think about it for like years and you only use Google Maps and you don't look at a globe, you start to forget that the earth is actually round. And then when
Do you?
Yeah, I think you do. And so if I said to you, oh, what's south of Australia? What would your answer be?
I don't know.
You'd have to think about it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. But I would.
But if you travel south from Australia, where do you end up?
I don't know. But
I'm going to blow your mind now. You end up in South Africa.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
Not really.
To me, I was confused by that for about an hour.
Right.
Because I forgot that the map that you see on Google is flat, but it's round.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's
then
why
once
when
it's
people get
round-
very confused about, like, when they look at it, they're like, well, why does it take so much longer to fly to here to there? And you're like, well, obviously because it's not flat.
Yeah.
It's curved.
But I think Google have fucked us up there.
Do you know about the tube map?
No.
The tube
Don't
map.
tell me that's round.
Basically, yeah.
How is that round?
It's not round, but it's wildly inaccurate.
Oh, of course.
Oh, of course it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it has to have.
No, it's just they're trying to make it easy for you.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
Charlie Beck. How
Like-
like, on that revolutionised the
Really?
tube map. Yeah.
It's a good
Because it
map.
was too
though.
complicated for people because it was all wiggly.
Yeah.
Because it was accurate and people were going, but I don't know who I am.
Do you think when we were talking about play, do you think straight people and straight men are they less likely to like have fun? Do you think straight men need more hobbies?
I've noticed with horses, women are always the first to get up to the end to play because they understand the importance of play, because play is just, I think, something that women are actually way more encouraged to do, and in our social groups and in our networks and what we do. Boys don't play unless it's like in the two-dimensional realm of video games
Yeah.
or football or organised sport. There's different types of play. There's symbolic play, there's role play, there's fantasy play, there's game play. There's so many different types of play, and it depends what play you're encouraged to do as a kid. But I've noticed men get very emotional at my show, particularly much older men, who maybe they're more reflective, or much older men get very emotional at the end of my show, because there is something about boys being told, stop that now. You have to grow up and be strong.
Yeah.
I noticed it when I was a teacher. Girls would continue to do drama, and the boys would go, suddenly they get to year 9, they don't want to do it. They don't want to play the scene where they have to be emotional.
I think that's why I feel lucky to be gay, actually. It's not because I'm gay, it's because I think when you realise you're different, you can throw all of that nonsense away, and all that programming kind of hopefully or can just dissipate. And so I'm allowed to be feminine, I'm allowed to dress up, I'm allowed to be silly, I'm allowed to play.
When you know no one else, it's like the weird kids. When I was a teacher, like the kids who knew they were weird, as an example, were not bullied. Because the kids who were like, I'm weird, like we're not in this.
Yeah,
we know
yeah.
who we are. And they'd go off and do their weird, like, funny games where there were these two kids who put bags on their heads and they would chase each other.
Yeah.
And everybody would just be like, yeah, that's what Nicola and Clive do.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was the kids who were trying to be part, and everyone else could go, no, you're not part.
Yeah.
They get bullied. I don't know. There's something really fascinating about when we take ownership of exactly who we are.
Yeah.
Definitely. We definitely have like fallen into I say we, it's probably more me to be honest, like the gay and non-gay stereotypes, especially when we first started the podcast. And I think I would often like harass Dan about being like boring and straight and having no fear. I mean, I still do to a certain extent. That's kind of the whole podcast, isn't it? But I do feel bad about it because it isn't. I don't know where I'm going. It's not really your fault, is it?
Well, I don't agree that I'm boring. Or
No,
whatever.
I don't. I've never said that you were boring. I don't think. I did. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm using words that don't necessarily. Elf's moving away from the mic. I'm using words that I don't really mean. I guess I'm just saying, like, I think that we can all so easily fall into these stereotypes and be quick to say one person is one thing.
Yeah, I was probably a weird kid, but I got on really well with what we would call chavs. Because I guess they knew that I was like that, and they also thought I was funny, weird. Not that I am weird, particularly. Does any of this make sense?
Yeah, I think it's also weird.
We're all weird, right?
Oh, we're totally all weird.
I'm weird.
Everyone's weird. It's just taking ownership of it, and it's also not trying to make a big deal out of it. It's like kids don't realise how much they value being intelligent. They think, oh yeah, you don't want to try too hard. But the funniest kid is often quite sharp.
Yeah.
They love wit. I was definitely, loads of kids, people thought I was weird, but I knew I was very weird. And because there was just like, I knew I was such an outsider at such a particular age. The only time it was very difficult was when I was 11, I knew I was gay. Like I knew I liked girls. And it's weird because it was reacted to so badly because I went to boarding school, and being gay was like the worst thing you could be. I really think being a lesbian was the worst thing. But I got moved into a sick room for like a week. And it was never explicitly said because I was gay, because I was a lesbian, but because I'd said I was lesbian, the girls didn't want me in the dormitory, and it made it such an uncomfortable environment. And then it's so funny because then sixth form, Skins came out, and suddenly lesbianism kind of took on that weird sexy taboo because you realised boys fancied it.
Yeah.
So suddenly girls would randomly come into my dormitory and be like, hey, how are you? And I go, well, hi. What do you want? I'm doing my coursework and going, oh wait, I think I'm being used as like a gay sexual awakening bicycle, which was not fun. But I think weirdly now that is genuinely, in terms of conversion therapy, I have never been in a relationship with a woman, and I think that whole experience was so visceral. I think it might have turned me way more straight than I define myself as being queer, like bisexual, I don't really know. Pansexual, what's the one where you like someone's intelligence?
Pansexual. I think.
Yeah, like I get turned on by someone's brain. And as long as they've not got fucking pop socks on. And they know who Charlie kisses. But yeah.
Yeah. I think that's so heartbreaking. Sorry to hit. I mean, I feel like you're half joking, but to say like that has sort of pushed you more straight is...
Yeah, like I've never been in a relationship with a woman. Like I've dated women. And I think also I find it quite difficult because I don't quite know what my queer identity is in that one, because I've never had that sort of exploration. Because also when I went to university, I think it was just called Lesbian and Gay Society. I think the bisexual bit was kind of brand new.
Well,
and I didn't define
even
myself.
now it's being erased constantly, isn't it? With Jojo Siwa coming out, doing whatever Jojo Siwa wants to do.
Yeah.
She said she was a lesbian and is now potentially in a romance with Chris Hughes, but she originally said she was pansexual. So I think it's just part of the program. Yeah,
my friend Rosie Jones, who's like, talks a lot about queerness, she said to me, Elf, and I always find it very comforting. She says, you can be in a relationship with men your entire life and never sleep with a woman, and you can still be lesbian. Like, it's not a proof thing. Mm-hmm. So I always find that very comforting, because I do think sometimes we live and because everything is so performative and online.
Yeah.
And also because of our job, there is an element of going, if I talk about being queer and bisexual or whatever it is that I am, but then all my partners have been blokes, it does suddenly feel like I'm faking it or not really in the tribe. But then I genuinely don't know how to date girl. Like, I find it really hard because I don't quite know, like with the carabiner and the left and the right, I don't quite know. Sometimes I'm super femme, sometimes I'm not. I don't really know I feel totally out of it. While at least with boys, I just know that I'm just going to help you with your career development, and then you're going to work out who you are, and then you'll leave.
Oh no. Elf, that's so funny. That's way too real. I think that, like, if I suddenly had a girlfriend or slept with a woman, you wouldn't be... I feel like less people would be going around going, oh, he's straight now. I think the people that don't like you on Piers Morgan comments or whatever would have something to say.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. They would immediately be like, haha, you're straight. You're right.
Yeah.
But it's so annoying how quick we are to jump to that when actually there's this whole other sexuality, bisexuality, pansexuality that would explain that.
Yeah.
And also
behavior.
safety, like the economics of being in a relationship and love is so complex as you get older. When actually sometimes when you're dating someone, like I'd love to be in a lovely relationship with a woman, but I've never found that I've never met that person, and so I could keep pursuing it. Or suddenly you meet someone, you're like, oh, our hours work.
Yeah.
You're really nice. You make me feel safe.
Yeah.
We're both financially secure. You want kids, I want kids. Okay, cool. We can love each other because there's a friendship there.
I completely agree.
Does that make, like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that sounds pretty bleak, but I think maybe because I'm coming out of the back of a very big breakup and then going, I'm 33 and I want to have a baby.
I think I'm in the same place though with love. After what I went through, I don't look at it now like the way I did when we started this podcast, Dan, where I was like going to find a man who was going to fix me. Now I am looking at it more like a business transaction, where I'm like, well, what do you have? Like, what do I have?
Jane Austen it.
How do we fit together?
Jane Austen wrote very honestly about what love was.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you go, oh. Like when you're a kid, you go, this is so depressing.
Right.
And it is. But then you get a bit older and you go, no, it's actually, this is pretty on it, you know?
Yeah. Like, do the
I don't know
background
how
checks.
much I agree with this, because I just think that when
We're just so broken.
It's weird that just two broken queers. Should we marry each
I
other?
think we should. I mean, we'd be quite good together.
I would treat you so well.
Thank you. I think you would too.
You could dress me, some of the young millennials.
I would get you the socks. I'd sort your socks out. Go on,
me the
Dan.
socks.
Sorry.
I just think when you watch this transactional kind of relationship play out, then certainly in the straight world in Solihull, they don't play out very well.
Did Jane
Do you
Austen
know what I
write
mean?
in Solihull? Is that what she was writing?
Probably, yeah. But do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, transactional, I mean, obviously you look at a lot of arranged marriages or a lot of marriages.
Yeah.
That I've but love is sometimes we have this idea that it's instant. And actually for me, it's like when I meet friends.
yeah.
A friendship takes a long time in my head. Like I treat my friendships the same way I treat my romantic ones. They are just as important as serious, and friendships can also break up and they require serious conversation. But they take time of conversation, and there's constantly with friends reciprocation.
Yeah.
If you make all the effort and I don't make all the effort, I take you out for dinner. Oh right, well I'll get the next thing. Like we're constantly transactional in friendships, or like because it's just seen as like commonplace. Like as a kid, you were brought up, well, they invited you to your birthday party, so we invite her to your people will say that's possibly wrong, and it probably is, and probably not healthy. But
No, I think it is healthy.
But sometimes in romantic love, there's this idea that we go, I've got you no matter what. Through your darkest days, through any way you treat me.
Yeah.
I've got you because, wow, our love knows no bounds.
Yeah.
Our love is more important than financial security. Yes, you want to be a DJ? You can be a DJ. You can treat me like this. He's complicated. She's complicated. She's having a breakdown. Whatever it is, there's this. And when I mean transactional, there has to be a moment of going, we have to actually, like for me in my head, it's like, I'm a comedian. I want to have a child. I'm in a relationship with someone and they have a particular type of career and I have my career, but we want to have a baby and we want to have a family. And there has to be a moment of going, I need to take a sacrifice, or you need to make a change, or one of us, we both need to make some...
Well, it's complicated when there's kids involved.
Yeah.
Because I guess you get to a point where you're like, oh, I need to turn this one around quite quickly because of biology or whatever.
What a way to put it.
Yeah. But then you do see, like, you see people in relationships for years and then they split up and then they're this is in the straight world, I suppose, and then you see them getting married and having a baby within like a year of, right, which is kind of weird, but I guess it's...
Well, I get it. It totally depends on what the economic scenario. I think economics plays a really big part of it. And also that yes and mentality, like you say, about the biology bits, I'd argue that's still in a sense slightly transactional, because babies aren't just something you suddenly feel out. For example, with my one particular partner of mine, the realization we both came to was that we weren't going to have children. And I think we came to that decision, we manipulated ourselves into thinking that because we were both artists in very financially weak positions during the COVID period. and looking at everything in the news and going X, Y, and Z and manipulating ourselves that this was the best choice. But then now coming out of a particular relationship and going forward now going, I do not want to get myself emotionally and in love with someone in the artistic sector.
Yeah.
Unless they have very clear things already in place. And I think that's okay to have very clear, and people will go, well, that's pretty bleak. And you're like, no, it's just...
No, it's not though, is it?
It's protect. Like, you then might meet someone, you go, oh, right, they work in an estate agent. You've got a house? Brilliant. You've got your shit together? Cool. Right,
It's only
lovely.
the same
Boom,
as-
safety.
Yeah.
It's only the same as being... I feel, well, maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like it's like age gaps. You could look at... I could meet someone who's 21 and be like, God, you're an amazing person, but Jesus, we can't be together. We have such a big age gap. And I think it's the same thing. It's like, oh, you're an amazing person, but actually you don't have a career. You're like, I'm doing a background check on you. You don't have this, you don't have that. Like, cool. We're not going to work out.
And this is where falling in love is a choice. It's not...
Yeah, it's just like saying, oh, or like logistically, you live in a different country. So as much as we would be great together, I can't make that work because that's not what I need emotionally.
But people don't like talking about it because it goes against everything that we've got about our ideas of what love is.
This made up notion that you're going to bump into someone and it's all true love.
It's like with people who have affairs. It's like, oh, I just fell in love. I'm like, no, you didn't. You saw someone across the room and you found them fit. And it could have been that. And what you did was you went up to them and you had a conversation at the bar. That was the next step. You went, oh, we should hang out sometime. You followed them on Instagram. That was the next step.
Yeah.
Then you slid into their DMs. That's the next step. You then sent them a poem. That's what every man over the age of 35 does. Or
A poem?
If you know what, there's, I think 20s is you send memes. 30s, there's something like, have you heard Radiohead? Man in their 40s, so shocked that you've read a book. Man in their 50s, they'll post you some like, you know, they'll post you like a beautiful build your own owl. I don't know, some crafts kit.
Build your own owl.
But all these steps, but you choose to fall, this idea of falling in love. No, you ran as fast as you could to the edge and you stood there and you waited for the wind and you went, oh no, look, I've fallen.
And it's not to say that you can't have a beautiful romantic story with someone. It's just that I think we're probably very jaded, but I just think
we're both jaded because we've both had very complex. Also, when you we've both had quite intense relationships. I mean, for any listener, I was meant to get married a month ago, and I'm 3 weeks out of something that was like 4 years of my life. So I'm in a very complex. Like, we broke up the day that my wedding dress arrived. So I'm in a very different reflective headspace.
I'm very impressed by how okay you are.
I've listened to a lot of audiobooks immediately, booked in therapy, reading a lot, and I'm talking about it constantly and writing things down because obviously a relationship can be very unequal. Yeah. But it always takes two people to choose to be in an unequal relationship.
Have you
read,
or
whatever it is.
There's an amazing book by Bell Hooks about love.
Oh yeah, Bell Hooks is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, she is great. This is the most I'll ever talk about a book, by the way. Dan's like, what? You don't read? It's an amazing book.
Mm-hmm. It's also about learning what your values are. We don't talk about it enough. Like, what are your core values that you need? And I think it comes to that thing about economics, like stability, career ambition, honesty. Like, what are your 5 core? What are the things that you choose to live your life by? And often when we go into relationships that might be really passionate, really sexy and really fun, we have chosen to overlook that our values do not match because there's this romantic idea that love can conquer all and change everything.
What do you think, Dan? Because I think...
Sorry, I'm
I think you disagree, but Alf and I are over here snapping our fingers away.
Well, I guess it's quite a cynical take. I mean, I've been with my girlfriend for like 14 years.
Wow.
And I don't think it's in any way like transactional.
I don't think you have like a traditional love conquers all love story. I think you have two people that are very similar that have shared values work great together. That's how I see it.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, but the other version of that is what it is like a love conquers all thing because I'm making against all the odds and having to have multiple conversations about it every time I see anybody. I'm still in a long distance relationship after 8 years of it being long distance.
Yeah.
So
I suppose it's...
I would say that is love conquering all.
What are your life lessons of love from 14 years?
Well, one of them is that you do have to compromise. Yeah. Like a lot. I mean, we have this conversation all the time, but you have to compromise multiple times a day with everything. Yeah. So in the love arena, that just feels like a logical logical progression of what you're doing like day to day. I don't know what. I don't know what my lessons are, but I guess compromise would be one of them. Or if you want to do something and everyone tells you not to do it, then carry on doing it.
I think it's about making sure that you're not just swept up in the elation of the lust of it.
But that only lasts 6 months anyway, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
It depends.
Queer people keep it going, I think. Before we go, what advice would you have for people listening that might also want to be a horse?
I would say find an open area where you can run around into like a park or a bedroom or a garden or just an empty street without any traffic, and put your arms in front of yourself and just gallop or find a track that you like. But also I think advice for everyone is put on a track of music first thing in the morning for 2 minutes and just wobble as much as you can in your bedroom. And I think if you wobble for 2 minutes, I try and wobble as much as humanly possible. It does make everything better. And I think it's actually why I'm the most mentally well regulated, despite going through one of the biggest seismic shifts and changes in my adult life. Yeah.
That's a really good advice, actually.
Yeah, just wobble, wiggle everything. Like, wiggle as much as you... Imagine you're one of those statues from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, where it's been winter and it's never summer, and then suddenly it's summer again and your body can move. And put on a song like We Like to Boogie or, like a fun, cool track.
Yeah.
And just go...
Yeah. Limp Bizkit. Yeah. Elf is on tour right now. Go and see her.
Yes, and in Edinburgh as well.
Yes.
If you're in the UK.
And I will probably, after that, take a massive break.
Great.
So these are your only times to see me. So don't waste it.
Do it.